Hey guys, Captain C.A. Richardson from Flats Class YouTube. Today, gonna give you a fishing lesson and take you on an adventure with veteran guide Captain Brian Chamberlain. We were recently out in my Hells Bay Eldora because he's been considering getting some aqua traction marine flooring in his Hells Bay Professional and wanted to see it firsthand. We'll go over that a little later. Right now, we're gonna walk down to the shop. I'm gonna show you some of the advantages and sometimes disadvantages of inline fishing hooks on plugs. So let's walk down here to the shop. I'll get a few things going. In the meantime, you guys watch some of the fishing action that we had while we were out the other day with Captain Brian. This episode of Flats Class YouTube is brought to you by Aqua Traction, your go-to solution for advanced marine flooring. You were just saying that. You were just saying that, my friend. Mr. Snook. He hammered. Yeah, he hammered that. I switched to those single inlines.
You know, it's just better off for the fish.
Yeah.
You know, on trebles, a lot of times I just smash the bark down. If I lose a fish every now and then, oh well.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't mind using the trebles if I do the same thing. It's just netting these things and dealing with them. It's a pretty fish here.
Freaking engulfed it.
They did. I think I got 30 on there.
Yeah, you'll be retying.
Yeah, yeah, he absolutely crushed this thing. Probably dog boned it. Whoa, whoa, come on, open up, buddy. Those single inline hooks are pretty good fishing trip thus far, huh? We're not done. I'm going to send you right back to the action on the water, but I want to talk to you a little bit about this conversation between treble hooks and inline hooks. Now, I'm not going to BS you. In my opinion, the treble hooks are probably slightly higher ratio hookup. It is. It just is. It's stickier. There's more hooks. Naturally, it's going to be better that way. But I want you to consider a few of these negatives about the treble hook. One, it's tough on you and the fish. If you've ever been stuck by one, you know it's tough, and it happens often. So they're problematic that way. If they get deep into a fish, they're almost a death sentence for the fish. Two, they create quite the challenge in entanglement, these treble hooks, when you have to utilize a landing net. So if you've got a light leader and you've got a big fish on and he's only attached to these small little treble hooks, you're more inclined to open that net up and try to dip him. Well, if that fish starts to throw himself around in there and these hooks are getting tangled in that net, and then you've got to try to get him undone, the fish undone from the treble hooks and the net, the fish is out of the water too long. Again, bad for the fish, probably bad for you too. Another negative, if you will, to consider about treble hooks is the fact that when you fish around cover, what do I mean by that? Oyster bars, docks, mangrove shorelines. Well, you have less pulling power with those smaller hooks than you would a nice big, wide gap hook like that, where you can really apply some pressure and pull those fish away from cover. Okay. And then lastly, I'd say the big negative to the Trebs is the fact that in many cases, they foul with surface debris, floating grass and weedy stuff like that. They're terrible about that. Or if you have to fish them over some skinny spots before you get into the potholes, they catch the bottom grass quite a bit because there's not enough hook gap to offer some relief where you can rip it through it. Just anything that gets on it fouls it and destroys the action. Now, stay tuned because I want to talk to you a little bit more about the advantages to these inlines that are going to make that hookup ratio seem a lot better for you. All right, well, we kind of covered it a little bit talking about the troubles. You can only imagine I'm going to compare why these are better. A, they're better on you and the fish because there's only typically one of these hooks that are getting the predator. So you only have to deal with one hook. And a lot less likely that you'll get hooked. So it's better on them, better on you. Again, now you've got that big snook coming boat side. If you do need to scoop him with a landing net, it's much easier now because if you scoop him up and you only got to untangle one or two hooks, that's not a big deal. Fish isn't out of the water that long. 3, and we already talked about this, fishing around docks, mangroves, oyster bars, marsh points, anything like that that a fish runs up underneath or into, now you can instantly pull back as hard as you want and they're not going to get free. And lastly, when debris gets on a hook like that, those bigger hooks, well, you just snap it one time and it just clears right through. There's so much room there for it to clear. If you're working over shallow stuff, this is a lot less likely to foul. Now, I know what you're going to say. I tried inline hooks. I don't feel like my hookup ratio is good. And the most irritating thing is the fact that this front hook reaches over and grabs that leader line like so all the time, or ends up on the top of my bait like that. Well, stay tuned to the end of the video. I'm going to give you a bonus tip and teach you how to eliminate that one problem. Because if you eliminate that one problem, you're going to use inline hooks a lot more. I promise. Back to the action with Captain Brian Chamberlain, and I'll be back here at the end. Oh, yeah. It's a good one. In the hole. In the hole. Turned out to be a good day of fishing after all, once this water got up.
Wait them out.
Get them comfortable. Sometimes higher water just equates to better fishing.
Hey, what? All these fishes have great color today.
Yeah, and I really thought this one was hooked up good on that inline. Solid citizen right here.
That's where he should be hooked too.
Yep, that's why you like those big inline hooks, because they get them. They don't miss them. Good size fish. A junk.
Very aggressive too.
Oh God, yeah. All right, buddy. Tell you what, we're getting a couple now. This one little corner here will have some. There's another little hole up here that ought to have a few more. So let's see what we can do with
Optimism, I like it.
Optimism.
Yeah, he came right up off the edge there and just whacked it.
Phenomenal trip with Captain Brian Chamberlain. He's an amazing guide, and I think he was pretty impressed with the Aqua Traction marine flooring product. I think that's going to be something that finds its way into his Hells Bay Professional. Now let's get to that bonus tip. You've always been told that you have to have a loop knot on all these plugs. That helps a lot with topwater, for sure. Helps with jigs. Not necessarily a must with suspending plugs. And that's because when you make a cast and the plug hits the water, if you twitch, and keep throwing that tip back toward the plug, you give it room to swim. By doing that and using a little bit heavier leader, you see how that leader material stands out in front of this plug? It just stands right out in front of this plug. That keeps this hook from wanting to reach over and get it. Okay? It does. No loop knot. Heavier leader. This is 30-pound leader. Some guys will fish for snook with 40 and 50-pound leader, but 30-pound leader is a pretty good leader material to use for most of us for redfish, trout, and snook. Lastly, the most important thing. You'll hear guys taking the front hook off. You'll hear guys putting a larger hook on the back. You'll hear guys that'll put this size hook on the back and another size hook on the front to keep this from coming over the top. All those things destroy the balance of a suspending plug like this MR27. It destroys the action. You gotta have equal hooks. The way you beat it is you take a pair of pliers and you put it on that front hook and you bend it in to shrink the gap. Can you see how much narrower the gap is on the front hook versus the rear hook? That's the secret. And that way, that hook can't get over the nose of the bait or go over the top of the leader. It almost completely eliminates it. Now, I'm not going to say in 100 casts you might get one where it goes the right way and it ends up hooking it, but 1 in 100 casts, that's pretty doggone good. So consider heavier leader, no loop knot on your suspending plugs. Throw slack in the line to keep your action good. And then close the gap on that front hook. Now these are 2/0 hooks that are in accessory packs from Mirrorlure that we add to this. And in my opinion, these inline hooks have been fantastic. They've been fantastic. If you like what you're seeing here on Flat Splash YouTube, give us a thumbs up, man. And subscribe, tell all your fishing buddies. It's my job as a 30-year pro to make you a lot better fisherman. And I've been doing this, like I said, for a long time. So I'm anxious to help you guys get after it this spring and summer and catch some seriously nice fish. All right, until next time, I'm gonna head back into the shop and get ready for my next YouTube video. And hopefully you guys are gonna be headed to the water.